Elon Musk is currently staging a coup against our federal government at the behest of Donald Trump, and Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway were recently talking about what Democrats can actually do in this moment of crisis. Now, for those of you that don't know, Scott Galloway is a personal role model of mine. He is a very successful entrepreneur. He's a professor of business at NYU, and he really put it in stark terms. He said, "We are currently under attack. It is not time to empathize and work with these people, and it's about time for Democrats to start being more aggressive." That is what this moment calls for. So let's go ahead and take a look at this conversation between Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway from the Pivot podcast. And just kind of to set the stage, Scott Galloway is saying we are at war, and it is not time to work with these people.
But just moving to what we can do, the Democrats at this point, I remember talking to Ray Dalio about our elected officials, and he's like, and by the way, this is war. Take the gloves off. I mean, this isn't try to understand or empathize with the people who elected this guy. In my opinion, this is war. And they essentially, they're challenging the Constitution and democracy. I don't think it's time for us to try and figure out, understand them.
I think this is the exact right framing. It might sound harsh, but our Constitution is under attack. Our democracy is under attack. Our very country is under attack right now. It is not time to empathize and try to work with these people like many of the Democrats are still trying to do. Our country is on fire, and we have to stop the bleeding before we do anything else. If we just let them control the game table, then what? They shut down all these agencies, and then we come begging for, well, can you at least fund 50% of it? No, that is not the game we are playing. The law is on our side. These people are violating the Constitution. They are breaking the law, and we need to start acting like it. Democrats need to stop talking, and they need to go a bit more gangster, as Scott Galloway would say.
To just sit back and say this is horrible and this is unlawful, we need to go gangster here and say, look, we are not negotiating around this stuff. This is illegal. This is a coup. This is the unlawful seizure of power. We are not going to engage in these bullshit, ridiculous arguments over, Gaza and Greenland. We are going to hold the people accountable. Here are their names. Here are their faces. And we have contacted the local authorities in where these kids live, these young adults, and we are going to hold them accountable. We need to start hitting back in a way that disrupts what is the unlawful seizure of resources that have been leaked. You might disagree with them, fine. That is not anyone's right. Our elected representatives pass these laws.
He is exactly right. The executive branch does not have the power to just stop funding. They do not have the power to unilaterally shut down different government agencies that they don't like. These people are violating the law. They aren't just breaking the rules and the norms. They are breaking the law. They are doing unconstitutional acts. Our Congress comes together. They pass laws, they allocate different money to go to different causes, and that is how those dollars are supposed to be spent. For Elon Musk and for Donald Trump to come up behind them and try to stop funding and tear down agencies, that is not within their constitutional purview. They do not have that power. And we need to start acting serious about the crisis that we are actually in right now. If we just let them walk all over us, if we just let them go in and tear stuff down, then what are we going to be left with? We have to start being more aggressive. We have to be willing to shut the Senate down, shut the government down to try to stop the bleeding. He then goes on to say that Democrats really need to be willing to go down there and get arrested. And I could not agree more here.
We've been critical of Democrats, and I've heard from about 6 Democrats, 1 senator, 5 representatives. And he says, well, what would you do? When we talk a little bit about messaging, he's like, and I'm like, but that's not enough. And he said, well, what do you want me to do? Walk down there and stop them? I'm like, yeah, I'd like to see all, whatever it is, 48 or 49 U.S. senators and any Republicans that want to join. I'd like to see a couple hundred members of Congress go to the fucking building where this is and demand to go in and physically stop this and let them arrest you. I'm like, fine, let America see that there are still people who believe in government in the U.S. and democracy. Let them arrest you. I'm like, go down there. This guy I'm talking to is this representative, a newly elected guy, former service member. I'm like, dude, if someone attacked our shores, you put yourself in harm's way. I'm like, march down to wherever this fucking building is where all these acolytes and the High Sparrow are and walk in there and demand they stop and let them arrest you. Democrats, this is not a time to come together. This is a time to come to the rescue.
This is not a time to come together. It is time to come to the rescue. That is perfect. That is just perfectly summed up. And I love this idea of Democrats forming a group, going down into these federal buildings and allowing themselves to be arrested. Now, does being arrested suck? I'm sure it does. But what would that actually do? Think about it. If Democrats went down there, 50 of them, 100 of them, whatever it may be, they go down there, they get arrested, and what does that do? That puts the ball in our court. Now, the whole country is talking about how the Trump administration just arrested Democrats for trying to stand up against this coup. I think this is a great idea, because right now we're just allowing Elon and all of his goons to run roughshod over the federal government, and we're just kind of trying to play catch up with all of the damage that they are doing. So we are messaging from the back foot. But if we go down there and allow these representatives, these senators, to be arrested, that shifts the ball to our court, I think. I think this is an excellent idea. Now, of course, he is not talking about going down there and being violent. He says, obey the law, don't get violent. But really, the law is on our side here. And I could not agree more. The law is on our side. We have seen every single time these things be challenged in front of a court that they get shut down. So the law is on our side here, but going down and getting arrested, I think would actually do a lot for the Democrats right now and for the country as a whole.
And if the Capitol Police respect the law, if the Capitol Police show up at the order of the president and say, you need to vacate, I would not vacate. And if you get arrested, fine. I'm not a fan of breaking the law. I think the law is on our side here. I think these guys are breaking the law. And just because you have permission from the president, let's fight it out in court and find out, well, can the president break the law? Because as we have seen, the president has been stopped. Anytime this shit gets in front of a judge, it usually gets stopped. So do you have the right as a citizen, an elected representative, or do you have the obligation to get in the way, legislative, verbally, legally, and quite frankly at this point, physically? I'm not suggesting violence. I'm not suggesting these elected representatives have license to walk into any federal building. Millions of people have elected them. Find out where this shit is going on and go down there and say to these people, what you are doing is illegal.
I get it.
That is exactly right. Millions of people elected their representatives to represent them in Congress. Our congresspeople, our senators, they should have the right to go into these federal buildings and to try to check out what is going on. But right now, we have an unelected billionaire who is not even a government employee, who is shutting down these federal buildings, locking them, not allowing our representatives in to do any oversight. It is absolutely unacceptable. This is not how our country is supposed to function. And the American people are also not very interested in having Elon Musk play a key role in the Trump administration, as we saw from the polling that we went over last week. The law is on our side here, and we need to start playing a bit more aggressively. Of course, the nonviolent part is very, very important. But civil disobedience is something that we should know how to do. It is something that we should use to our advantage to try to shift the messaging into our favor. Because right now, they are just like a bull in a china shop, and they are wreaking havoc all across Washington, D.C. So it is time for our Democrats to come together, form a group, do whatever you need to do, and go down there and assert your authority as a federal employee who is actually elected. And if they don't want to play ball, let them arrest you. I think it's such a great idea that Democrats should definitely be taking seriously right about now. They then switch the conversation just for a second here about how other countries should be responding to the coup that is currently underway in our country. And I really like what Scott Galloway says here. Like, America has come to many people's rescue over and over and over again. It is time for other countries to step up and start helping America, because we are under an authoritarian takeover and we need some help right now.
I mean, I'd like to think that America came to the aid of a lot of nations in real times of crisis over the last 100 years, and we want to keep doing that. I mean, at this point, I believe that nations need to come to the aid of America at this point. And I would suggest taking a page, and to the extent that people feel frustrated or worried about America no longer being the shining beacon leading democracies all over the world or setting the tone, what Canada did was I think you need to be very Machiavellian strategic. A province in Canada has canceled a $100 million contract for Starlink. They've said, we're just not going to continue to fund the lead of a coup. I'd hit them where they're in their soft tissue, and that is, if you think America plays and should continue to play a vital role in our democracy and be that shiny beacon on a hill, and you are using Starlink, or your government is in negotiations around subsidies, whatever it might be for EVs or Tesla, I would make it clear that you are not going to support an individual who's leading a coup in a nation that has, for the most part, been a really staunch ally.
I love this idea as well. And we've already seen a little bit of this. Canada was strategically targeting red states that might mean more to Donald Trump with their tariffs. That was a good start. But Elon Musk, with his Starlink and Tesla, he's got contracts all over the globe with different countries. It is time for those countries, our allies, to step up and start asserting themselves into Elon's life. Cancel those contracts or do whatever you need to do to try to hit Elon where it hurts. Now, I don't know how effective that is going to be as far as getting him to slow down, but at least we need some ally or partnership in this endeavor. Like I said, we are in a constitutional crisis. They are going against the Constitution. They are breaking our laws, and we have an unelected billionaire calling the shots while the president is just flying around acting confused in every single press conference that he gives. So I just really love these set of ideas. I think the Democrats should be willing to go down and get arrested. That would shift the narrative into our favor. I think these countries need to start playing hardball with Elon Musk, start canceling contracts, targeting red states with their tariffs. Do whatever they need to do. We need their help right now. We are in a constitutional crisis. And just so we are clear, we are not saying that we aren't going to work with Republicans, that we don't need to empathize or, try to come to some sort of compromise. That is not what we're saying. We're talking about in this moment. This moment calls for aggressive action. This moment calls for stopping the bleeding first. This is a coup, and we have to stop the bleeding first. And that's how Scott Galloway will finish up here.
Focus on stop the bleeding. And the bleeding here, America is bleeding out in a small building somewhere that has access, that is being remotely accessed by different locations, by a group of people under the cover of dark, to stop payments based on programs that were passed by laws by our elected representatives. This is a coup, and it's not a slow-moving coup, it's a fast-moving coup. And everything else is an ER doctor saying, okay, they lost their leg and they're going to be dead in 3 minutes if they continue to bleed out, but let's find out what their good and bad, let's figure out what their blood pressure. I mean, no, none of that's important at this point. Stop the bleeding. This is our focus.
That is exactly right. We have to stop the bleeding now. Will we work with Republicans and conservatives later on down the road after the constitutional crisis is averted? Yes, of course. But what is happening right now is not okay. What is happening now could lead to the fall of our democracy. They are just trashing the Constitution on a daily basis. That's why anytime this goes up to the courts, they get shut down. Americans are not interested in living in a dictatorship. We are not interested in a monarch. We are not interested in having an unelected billionaire calling the shots while an old demented president just sits around acting confused all the time. I don't think this isn't what we signed up for. Even if you are a MAGA voter, this is, I'm sure, not what you signed up for. Now, if they want to go and find efficiency or, waste, fraud, and abuse, that's fine. But that is not what they are doing. They are blatantly breaking the law. They are shutting down programs that our Congress people signed into law, and that is just not okay. And anytime they try to point out some waste, fraud, or abuse that they think they found, it is just a conspiracy or just a lack of understanding of how any of these programs work, how our government works. They have not been able to provide any solid evidence that what they are doing is cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. It is all a load of shit, and it is time for Democrats to come together, form a coalition, march down there, allow yourselves to be arrested. It is time to stop the bleeding. So I will leave it there for now. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We have to build something on the left that can adequately push back against the right-wing media ecosystem that is laundering all of this bullshit from Donald Trump and Elon Musk. So if you do appreciate the work I do, please do remember to subscribe and make sure, if you can, to share this video with a friend. This is what Democrats need to come together and do right now, so please do remember to share. If you want to see what this takeover is all about, how Elon Musk is staging a coup against our government, if you're not in the loop as far as what is going on, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.